If you walk in and you say you want to learn combatives, make sure those elements are being covered. Jiu-jitsu is great. Muay Thai is great. Judo is awesome. But it shouldn't be put ahead of, if you think you're learning combatives, you're kind of just playing the game of learning these skills and not putting that first. There's a lot of base knowledge that you could apply, learning combatives as a base, and then introducing those other martial arts that are going to enhance your combative knowledge.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and/or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have?
What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend? Is there anything I could do?
All right, guys, welcome back to Dangerous Questions. We get to work together to analyze these questions, these videos, these scenarios, to try to get us a little bit closer to sharpening that sword, to applying that stuff to our lives. So keep sending in this feedback. It's been awesome. This episode, we're going to break down what's my opinion on psychedelics, whether that's in the teams or veterans using it, and also a couple of scenarios where we see in a public environment, we get to see a smash and grab, a pretty good gas station brawl, and we also are going to dig into how do we find a basic level of combatives in our life? How do we identify that? Where do we even start? We have been fired up to work with you guys. This is Dangerous Questions, an IRONCLAD original presented by Staccato. Let's get into it. First question up. Over the next 12 to 18 months, what are you worried most about from a societal standpoint? Civil unrest, logistical issues leading to shortages, power grid going offline, something else? And what are the next steps one should take to prepare? First and foremost, I've talked about it in the past. I've talked about preparedness and how my faith has changed how I believe we should be responding. All of these things are relevant to somebody. They're all applicable and a concern for somebody in the world and in our country. What I'm encouraging people to do is to grow your faith, to get right with the basics, to go back to the things that we've always been great at. And that's strengthening our families, strengthening our relationship with God, getting right with everything in our lives and have a right ordered relationship with the things that are going on around us. And then with doing that, you're going to see these basic things and these anxieties disappear, right? I'm not worried about a lot of what's like power grid, civil unrest. Like, God has a plan for this. And my faith in him has led me to the point where it's like, I don't need to stress out about what's next. I need to worry about what's right in front of me and what I can take action on right here and now. The media and all these things that are going on in the world, they will absolutely consume you if you let it. Now that we have that base set and you kind of know where I'm starting at, what are we going to do? What are the steps that we're going to take? Because we do need to prepare, and we do need to have a base level of knowledge of how to do those things. And honestly, I believe that stuff that we're doing in our own communities is going to help us gain momentum. You know, the average person, when you're talking about a power grid going offline, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if you don't have the basic stuff down at your own home, like, there's going to be chaos everywhere. People are going to be, you know, going out trying to find these resources. If you're talking about food, power, gas, we have seen examples of this over the last several years already in microcosms. You know, what happens when gas runs out? People are freaking out. People are filling up their gas, their truck beds, and stealing from other people and stealing their car. You know, it gets really nasty really quick. And I think if anything else, the human element to that is something to be mindful of and to prepare for. And what does that mean for us? We have to find a sense of peace in what we already have. We have to get the basics dialed in at home. I'm not worried about where I'm going to find food and water, like that will be provided for us along our journey. But ultimately, we need to have the base level of understanding how to protect our family and ourself from whatever's going on. Even if I need to transit to get to my family and there's civil unrest, can I get there safely? Can I do it with a level of confidence that I can get from point A to point B and then take care of them? That's some of the biggest things going on that I feel uncertain about is, these emotional responses to what's going on in our media, our cultural war that's happening within our own borders. That stuff unfolds very, very quickly. We at least need to know how to mitigate and break contact from it. This is on a scale of the next 12 to 18 months. I think a lot of things are uncertain, but I put my faith in knowing that whatever is supposed to be is God's will.
Dangerous Questions is proudly presented by Staccato. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to firearms, precision and craftsmanship are extremely important to me. And these guys are hitting the nail on the head. They're setting the bar high. I know every detail of their firearms are really on point. So if you haven't already, go check them out. They make the 2011 pistol, which is in its A game. And you can go to staccato2011.com/dangerous. And by the way, they actually have ammo that matches the precision of their guns with the option to get a subscription. I don't know about you guys. I've been bit by subscriptions in the past, but I would not be upset for having more ammo showing up on my doorstep. So something to check out, and you can get free shipping by using the code DANGEROUS. Let's go.
All right, next question is...
Hey, Dom, quick question for you, man. I was wondering if you could break down the advantages of non-metallic knives. Like, just anything you got on that.
So this might be a dangerous question. So the question was non-metallics versus regular blades. Now, it's a very clear understanding of why non-metallics can be a benefit. Now, they're more affordable, first and foremost. So you can use them in a multiplicity of ways that doesn't have the high price tag that blades do. That's one. Second is, if you're out doing fitness and you're doing anything in a environment where a blade could potentially be bouncing around. Now, if you're carrying it properly, you should mitigate that, but it still is a concern, especially if you have a smaller frame or you're out there running and you've got a pair of shorts where it's flopping all over the place. The non-metallic is a lighter weight option. It allows you to have something that you can create impact. You can have a get-off-me tool. You have something to use as a reference. You can use it for manipulation, but yet the cost is much better, and also it's lighter weight to be able to have that quick access tool. So in contrast, that's a quick view. Now, why are you calling it non-metallic to begin with? We're calling it non-metallic because it doesn't have a metal signature. I'm not saying for people to go break the law. I'm not saying for people to go into places where it says you shouldn't, but it's a contextual thing. There are places that are setting up security that are not just. It's not a just security. It's not a just force that's saying, hey, you shouldn't be in here with X amount of things. If I take my overseas operational stuff into play, I'm thinking of those types of scenarios where this is the bad guy screening me to get into somewhere where I need to go to either save a life, help somebody else. And as I'm going through that filter or that layer of security, I want to be able to be as armed as I possibly can. That's a decision that I have to make. So for the good guys doing the right thing and protecting people, I am making that decision to go through that layer of security. I can't make that context up for you. I don't know how you would apply that to your life, but it is something to consider that if somebody's doing something and you could utilize this to your advantage for the right reasons, then maybe you do it that way. But again, the lightweight nature of it, the efficiency and the cost, and be able to apply it to life, the carry options that you have, and then having the ability to carry it where blades can't always go is something to keep in mind. Hopefully that helps build a little bit of a contrast. The other thing with non-metallics is they're not always sharp. Non-metallics don't have the sharp cutting edge that a regular metal blade will. When you're talking about a fibrous type of material that's really, really lightweight, you're mostly relying on impact for that. And it's those quick get out of a violent situation fast tools that we have on us that we can access. I'm looking for quick impact, break contact, protect myself, and then get to a better spot. So those are the ideas behind why non-metallics exist. Hopefully that clears up a couple of things and paints a little bit better of a picture for you on how you can apply them to your life. Great question on gear, and we're going to the next one. All right, this next question is a written question, and it's about psychedelics. This comes up a lot in our community, a lot in the veteran community and across the board. And there's a lot of people scratching their heads about, how do I apply this to my life? How do I not? Should I think about it? Should I not? So let's read the question. A lot of veterans are turning to psychedelics to treat PTSD. Do you have an issue with this? Well, here's what I have an issue with. I have an issue with the fact that psychedelics are becoming idolized, and they're steering people away from faith first. Faith is the foundation that's helped save my life. I have not done psychedelics. I have not tested them or tried them. I have more guys and more buddies in the teams that have tried than I can even count. So I know that their personal experiences very intimately. I know them. For me personally, I have not felt the calling to go do it. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but what I'm saying, what is wrong is that we're skipping past the most fundamental part of all of this, and that is our right-ordered relationship with God, God's love, his forgiveness, his mercy, everything that what faith does for us, what faith promises us, to set that foundation first, to steer away from that and ignore faith to talk about this thing that we think is going to give us a quick fix. I don't believe in that approach. I think that we're going to be more confused, have more questions after the fact, and it might be a quick fix, but it's not the long-term solution. I've heard of psychedelics leading people to some level of faith. I've also heard it steer away from faith. And it's one of those things where it might make you more of what you already are in some cases. And I can't say that definitively because, again, I don't have the personal experience. But I know for sure that we can't focus on it more than we're focusing on faith. To any veteran, to anybody out there listening, if we're focusing on any of these quick fixes before we're really analyzing the question of what do we believe and what is our faith in God, then we're missing a step. And we've got to start there. If that's the base foundation and we've got that right, it's kind of like my whole idea with steroids. It's like if we don't get the basics first, then how are we going to go chase all these other things expecting a quick fix and a long-term solution? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to manifest themselves the way that I believe they should. That's my opinion on it. And ultimately, I have an issue when it gets distracted from what's most important. It's a great question. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. And I'd love to dig in more on that topic at another point, but that's what I've got for right now. So great question, and thanks for sending it in.
All right, guys, this segment of Dangerous Questions is brought to you by Mountain Tough. You guys know how important physical fitness is to me. Every single day, no excuses, getting after it. Mountain Tough Plus is a fitness app that's trusted by the dedicated. And I'm talking about guys that are in the military, law enforcement. This app is awesome. It's laid out really well. These guys are putting a lot of effort into it. If you're looking for something and you're on the move and you're traveling that you want at your fingertips, these guys are putting a ton of content on there and it's all access. You guys can use the code DANGEROUS to add 4 weeks to an already 2-week trial, giving you 6 total weeks to test this thing out. Give it a test run and apply it to your life. You'll have something right at your fingertips on your phone every single day. Let's go.
This next question is brought to you by Mountain Tough, and it's a video submission, so let's see what he has to say.
Hey, how's it going, Dom? My question for you is, where do I get started with combatives? As someone who doesn't know anything, where is a good place to start and then evolve from there? As someone who doesn't know anything, has no prior experience, and just wants to become a responsible citizen, be able to protect myself, those around me, where do I start, and how do I know if they're teaching me BS or not? Like, how do I get what's necessary and discard what's useless? So thanks, man. You have a good one.
Pull what's necessary, discard what's useless. That's a paraphrase from Bruce Lee, a quote. By the way, awesome Dynamis hat. I appreciate the support. If you've been following us or you know about us, you know that combatives is something that's really, really important to me. You know, that's the base foundation of anything that we do, whether it's blade, pistol, rifle. We want to be combative first. So the question is important because it's like, where do I start? How do I know that I'm not getting taught some type of nonsensical, method, or somebody that's doing something that's not effective. We should have a combatives element on our site in the training module, and I will at some point, but because we don't have that yet, there's a lot of guys out there teaching some really, really good information. And I think that you can filter it through knowing it's BS or not to really understand if they're reputable. Guys that are out there, they're pretty prominent in who they are and what they teach. And like I said before, Bill Rapier, Kyle DeFore, Sayok, Tony Blair, Kelly McCann, Lee Morrison, Dave Camarillo. I mean, that's a consolidated list, but I would start with those guys and see if they have any open enrollment courses or anything coming up and get with their techniques and the tactics they're applying, because I've trained with all those guys, and I wholeheartedly believe that they're on the leading edge of evolving those methods applied to combatives and being in that nonviolent situation or violent situation and mitigating it as much as possible. Beyond that, you have to do your own assessment. There are some guys out there that are putting out good information. And I think you can apply it to a filter of just knowing our background and watching some of our videos. Does it sound like it's off? You got to use your best instincts too. If all of a sudden this guy pops up at the Tiger Dojo and he starts teaching something like that, I don't really know if that aligns. If your instinct is telling you something, you're probably right. And when you go train somewhere, there are so many guys putting out great information, but there's also equally as, or if not more, putting out bad information. So use your instincts and apply that to the future. Eventually we'll come out with a combatives training module so you can start there, because combatives is very specific. MMA and combatives are two separate things. And because he's wearing a Dynamis hat, I know for sure that he knows the difference, because they are really contrasted in the sense of MMA is a sport, right? There's consent, there's rules, it's one-on-one, somebody can throw the towel in, you have an audience, and there's a lot going on. You can't use weapons and there's no hard surfaces. When you bring in combatives, that contrast is much, much different. You strip away all those things, and it's a very raw environment where really anything can happen and all odds are on the table. So basically contrasting those things, if you walk in and you say you want to learn combatives, make sure those elements are being covered. Because if it is being put through a filter of, hey, we teach combatives, but you're going to put a gi on and you're going to start on your knees, you're at the wrong place. Jiu-jitsu is great. Muay Thai is great. Judo is awesome. But it shouldn't be put ahead of, if you think you're learning combatives, you're kind of just playing the game of learning these skills and not putting that first. There's a lot of base knowledge that you could apply, learning combatives as a base, and then introducing those other martial arts that are going to enhance your combative knowledge. Hopefully that helps. You're already quoting Bruce Lee, so you're on the right track. That's my filter for you to be able to take with you and understand that until we come out with our own combatives module. So thanks for the video submission. And again, God bless you and thank you for your support.
Hey guys, what's up? This segment of Dangerous Questions is brought to you by Snake Staff Systems. If you guys have heard me talk about them before, they make low-profile tourniquets, and I always say there's no excuse not to have a tourniquet on you, and these guys nailed it with being able to have something on you at all times. Go check them out at snakestaffsystems.com. No excuses.
All right, that wraps up all the questions. Now for my favorite part, which is brought to you by Snake Staff, the scenarios. So let's break down these two scenarios, which I think we're going to have fun with, and walk away with some knowledge that's going to make us better. Say it. All right, quick pause right here. Quick pause while that guy's up bouncing around on the counter. So I just want you guys to look at this environment before we start breaking down the actual brawl and the interaction and the combative aspect. Each environment we walk into, each corner store looks very similar to this, right? You've got stuff hanging off the shelves. You've got a countertop. You've got aisles in the back. You've got drinks, milk, liquor, whatever's in this environment. Now, it feels very transactional when you're sitting in it. If you go to walk into a gas station today, I want you to just pause in there and say, okay, everything kind of is where it's at. And I'm saying that to identify the fact that when it goes down and the fight breaks out or the threat presents itself, it's like all that stuff just disappears. And that clearly shows itself with this guy standing on the countertop. there's not anything between you anymore. Everything is in play, and whether it's the bad guy using it to his advantage or you using it to your advantage, this environment belongs to you. I always say that. If you want to increase your confidence on anything, walk into each environment, especially when it's an unknown one, and act like everything in there is already yours. You already own the counter. You already own the back door. That's already your cash register. Because if you give yourself permission right there and then, you're not going to be so locked into like, oh, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I use this? It's already yours. You've already given yourself that leg up on everything that's about to happen. Clearly, the bad guy has no problem doing it. So let's put ourselves in that state of mind as well. This guy's jumping on the counter, and let's see what happens as he's flailing over there. These two women are obviously doing what they do every single day. Now they're kind of locked up with this guy here. I'm going to let this kind of unfold a little bit, and we're going to go back and rewind and talk about what happens. But they're tussling with each other. This guy comes out of the back room, gives him an assistance. Obviously, this girl is typing away on her phone. I've talked about that multiple times. And then this girl starts going to town with this fire extinguisher. Great use of environment, right? Environmental manipulation. Ooh, right there on the kidney. Right there on the spine and the back. Okay, that's going to soften him up a little bit for sure, right? Hard weapon on soft target. This guy's getting folded up in his sweatshirt, trying to get away. And I like the aggressiveness from this guy. He obviously came out to throw down and make sure he was helping these ladies and mitigating this threat. Okay, so let's pause for a second. I want to rewind right where the guy's getting ready to come out. Now, a little bit of shock and awe to these girls. These girls are like, oh, this guy just jumped over the counter, and this is really happening. And they don't really do much right here other than just kind of hold on to him. So he's kind of stuck in this position. I'm not sure what his hands are doing, but it's something I'm concerned about. What's interesting about the girl that has her back to us right here is that you can watch her trigger. As soon as she feels the presence of the guy come out and come around her flank, she immediately starts fighting at that point. You can see her whole demeanor change. She gains strength, she gains momentum, and she gains confidence in what she's getting ready to do. Now, I want everybody to make that a learning point, because should she have needed him in that moment to step up that level? No. But sometimes that team mentality can help. When somebody sees somebody doing something, it's like, oh, wait, that's what we're supposed to do. Fight, that's right. It's just, again, permission. She might have already got ahead of the power curve if she did it herself. But he came in, added a hand here, and was able to wrestle this guy down to the ground. And again, when you get him here, what is a really good, useful skill to have? Jiu-jitsu, body control, body position, knee on belly, manipulating the guy's hands, manipulating the guy's neck. Where am I at to be able to really subdue him and then keep my eyes up with what's going on? But for what they had, they made use of their environment, and violence of action, again, rising to the top for this scenario. Is she grabbed the fire extinguisher, and I think that was probably the breaking point for him, realizing like, wait a minute, I'm stuck over here, I'm outnumbered, and now I'm getting hammered by this fire extinguisher. Not that he knew I was hitting them, but that obviously caused him to change reaction. Now, I don't have any context with the second guy jumping on the counter, but this is something I'm always going to tell you to pay attention to. Don't get sucked into the one guy. Violence of action, do what you need to do, but always make it a point to be scanning with what's going on. Is that guy coming to help or hurt? I don't know. Do we have any context on that?
He was helping.
No context, right? Yeah. So he might have been coming back to help these guys, but what did everybody else do? Even if he was coming to help, he stood and watched most of the fight, Even the girl, the other last point that I'll bring out in this is that the girl over there in the tie-dye shirt, as soon as she broke free, she tried to grab her phone. Look, guys, win the fight. That's the first priority. If the fight is still ongoing and you're sitting here trying to dial the phone number of the police, that in some cases, I'm sure has helped somebody. I've had people that had home invasions where one of their children were able to get upstairs and dial 911, breaking contact and preemptively calling the police. But a situation like this, where the fight is still happening in front of you, are those 20 seconds going to be better served trying to mitigate the risk to you right then and there, or the 5 minutes that it's going to take for the police to show up? I'm always going to choose to win the fight and then do my post-fight analysis to break my phone out and start calling somebody else. If you don't have a hand in the fight and you find yourself sitting in the corner of the room, yeah, pull out your phone and start dialing and getting help. But don't do it at the risk of losing awareness of what's going on in your environment, especially if you can take action. Okay, this is not an uncommon scenario. They were able to survive breakaway contact pretty successfully, and this guy got out and was able to get away. I don't know what he had in his hand. I don't know if he tried to make out with a candy bar or what he's got there, maybe a couple bucks. But ultimately, everybody's fine, safe, broke contact. Good on the guy for coming out and taking action. That, I think, ultimately is what changed the dynamic of the fight. He heard what was going on. He came out, grabbed the dude, and decided to fight, which maybe if he didn't, it would have ended up worse. But love the smashing of fire extinguisher. Good stuff. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. Keep your head out of your phone. If you can get a hand in the fight, take action, lead by your example, manipulate your environment, and ultimately when the fight's over, break contact and assess your post-fight and know your next move. These scenarios in the gas stations never get old because we can all visualize ourselves dealing with something just like this. So we'll keep them coming. And if you guys see any that you want us to break down, send them in. All right, let's talk about the next scenario. This is the smash and grab that I talked about earlier. Not uncommon. Very, very, very common attack from robbers trying to go in. Right away, I can see whose store this is. Who's the owner? You can identify very clearly the guy that's fighting with everything that he's possibly got. You know, he's not well trained, but he's doing everything that he can. Now, pause. Violence of action. That is what just changed that potential 3-minute robbery into a 15-second diversion of their attention of like, oh, we picked the wrong store. Most everybody in there decided to fight, and even the girl in the back, which we didn't even see coming, shows up with the chair. Love the chair. Again, because it's a manipulation of the environment. If they had blades, crowbars, hammers, chairs are great weapon. If I sit here and pick this thing up, right, you're going to have a really hard time getting between me and this chair if you've got anything in your hand. It's a great improvised weapon to be able to utilize on a basis anywhere in your environment. So this just turned into something that could be violent into now they're running outside of the door because they chose to fight. The girl's stepping up. She's throwing punches. Then the chair comes in. And again, context, guys. Please always remember we don't have all the context because what were these guys holding in their hand? I don't know. I can't see a gun. I don't see any blades. I think there's potentially a hammer there with some bags. Clearly, these guys have hoods over their head. They're not there to do anything good. And picking up on that, you could tell the girl behind the cash register, if you go back to the beginning, you can tell the girl behind the cash register picks up on it pretty quickly. And she says, okay, well, I'm going to get myself in a position. Now, she goes out into the fight. She puts the papers down. She's like, I'm throwing down. The other guy starts. She jumps in. They're protecting their store. And ultimately, these guys were like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get caught. And this isn't going to be over fast, so I'm out of here. Remember, those are the 3 things that criminals are always looking for. They want it to be quick. They do not want to get caught. And they want it to be over quickly. So if they are fighting against that timeline, then they're going to have a better chance of survival and protecting the store. Decisions you need to make on the X. But if I said one thing about this, is there anything they could have done earlier? Could they have seen them coming from down the road or breaking the corner earlier? This is where awareness comes into play. We've got to be scanning. We've got to be prepared. Now, if I'm a shop owner and I have a firearm on me, I mean, this is a really good instance to use a firearm in that case. I got 4 dudes, multiple attackers coming to that door. If I've got a gun on me, and again, the best place to carry it is where? On ourself. So if I see 4 dudes rolling in the door, my gun is already out. I'm already drawing on those guys trying to figure out what they're doing. I don't see any firearms. I don't see any weapons. Okay, I see a hammer. Hey, what's my demand going to be? Get out of my store. Wrong store. Leave now. You know, whatever I start to verbalize to get them to do what I want to do, and then ultimately change direction. Now, if that doesn't happen, again, escalation of force, de-escalation of force, we're going to do what we need to do to save our life and the ones that we love. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. Awareness, violence of action, and breaking contact. Know the context of the situation, and ultimately these guys survived to fight another day and to live and protect their goods. I don't even know if they got away with anything, maybe one or two things, but they were overwhelmed. They had 4 people in the store. They were outnumbered by violence, and they decided to break contact. So another scenario to learn from. We can set ourselves up for having better awareness, having our firearms in the right place, and being willing to throw down, I think, is what saved these guys. So another great video to break down. All right, guys, so that's the scenario breakdowns for this episode where we get to analyze these videos together. Thank you for all of your support. Keep sending in the videos. We appreciate all of it. We look forward to continuing to evolve with you guys on how we bring these questions to bear, what we do to break them down. This is Dangerous Questions, an IRONCLAD original, presented by Staccato. We'll see you on the next one. God bless you guys.